Welcome to r/RedditRevenge. This is a story of someone getting back at someone with revenge after being wronged. And today we have two great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story, loser worker lost his job because he was stupid. The second story, I quit work and deleted all the most important files. The first story is, you should have given me the job instead. I'm a chemist by trade. I work in a lab mixing chemicals together to make viable products for consumers. I once worked for a company that made all types of plastic. They were in serious need of a chemist and a friend, whom as the VP recommended I interview. The job was to be the lab manager. I would be responsible for 3 other chemists and 2 QC employees. I went through the very long interview process and was offered a job. However, it was not the job that I interviewed for. The management team decided that I was too young. I was 25. So they gave the job to someone else who was older. That person would be the A-hat manager. I was given a chemist job. It was a good job and it paid well, so whatever. So my first day on the job, I'm introduced to A-hat. Upon meeting him, he seemed to relish in the fact that he got the management job over me, and immediately started to show it. The lab was going through somewhat of a transformation. The previous manager was a pack rat, as in he kept every single piece of paper that was ever handed to him. So my first assigned task was to go through every single piece of paper to see if it was relevant. I had to physically remove each piece of paper from the box and scan it over for said relevant info, even though the box clearly said 1972 on it, and all it was pamphlets from shows or old chemical brochures. I still had to go through it. This took me weeks. I was the only person assigned this task. Everyone else did their normal job. In the meantime, he was busy showing up for work late, leaving early for his 2-hour lunch, disappearing for an hour and a half after lunch, and leaving work early. He was maybe seen visibly working for 1 hour a day. Fast forward to me finishing my assigned task. A-hat finally allows me to do some actual chemistry work. This is when I found out that he has no real experience working in a chemistry lab, or being a chemist. How do I know? Because A-hat decided to mix a couple of chemicals that don't play nicely with each other, and then proceeds to throw it in the microwave. 60 seconds later, we were short 1 microwave, and had a new respect for the fire extinguisher. He followed this up with leaving industrial-sized mixers on high speed, while unattended. Big no-no, they could kill someone. Starting another small fire in the plant and completely ruined an industrial-sized mill. After a couple months of his unsafe lab practices, they continued. I started noticing some changes in his personality, specifically towards people that he deemed a threat to his authority. He got into a very loud verbal argument with our first production manager, who then quit, then proceeded to get into an almost physical argument with one of our salesmen, whom also quit. Once those 2 were off his list, he turned his attention towards me. Now for a little backstory. I mentioned earlier that I was friends with the VP. I still am. I've worked for him before, and I enjoyed it a lot. Hence the reason I applied for the job. I'm the type of person that shows up early and leaves late. Always have, always will. I take great pride in doing good work. Well, A-hat took our friendship and my work ethic as a threat to his authority, and made it his life's goal to F with every single part of my day. He would assign me jobs to do. I would do them, and then he would berate me in front of everyone about how I did it wrong. Then he would tell me how to do it right, and I would fix my mistakes and do it exactly how he told me. And he would come back and berate me again in front of everyone about how it was still effed up. He did this for everything. The best part about all of this was the end of the day meetings. These meetings consisted of me going into his office, closing the door, and him yelling and swearing at me for at least 30 minutes. Topics, you ask? Think of one, it was probably my fault in some way. This went on 2 to 3 months until I cracked. I cracked because he got physical, as in shoved me when my back was turned. Now, I'm not a small person. I'm athletically built. I played football, I ran track, and I lifted weights. I don't know what got into him, but it got into him in a big way. I was shocked. I had never had a boss do that before. I don't know why, but I just let it happen. So when he was done screaming in my face, I just left and went straight to the bar and had a drink, and another, and another. That was the day I decided that I had enough. I wasn't putting up with any more BS. I'm admittedly not a very creative person when it comes to revenge, so the only type of revenge on a boss that I'd ever seen was from the movie Office Space. I literally did what that guy did. I just showed up and did absolutely nothing. I came and went when I wanted. I took 45-minute smoke breaks, 2-hour lunches, came late and left early. This drove A-hat insane, and every time he tried to talk to me about it, I did exactly what the guy in the movie did. I just never stopped and walked right past him. Every time he wanted another meeting, I just never showed up. I just went home instead. So after a week or 2 of this, I happen to be wandering around the office, and I stumble into my VP friend. He seems stressed out, and I inquired as to why. The safety inspector is here, and he'll be doing a walk through the plant, he said. He told me to let everyone in the lab know that he was here and not to F up. His words, not mine. Well, because I had literally quit doing what I was supposed to do, and A-Hat had to do what I was supposed to do, and seeing that he's a walking effing disaster, I took off for my 2-hour lunch. I wander back into the plant after my 2-hour lunch. My food was excellent, and SH has hit the fan. Every bigwig in the company is in there, and they're all freaking out. I walk up and the first thing the VP asked me was, "What did you see?" Being friends with him, I replied, "I didn't see SH. What happened?" So word on the street is this. A-Hat decided that he owned the place that day and went out and used one of the industrial stand-up mixers. Think KitchenAid mixer that makes cookies, but 8 feet tall, to mix something in a 1-gallon container. I was supposed to be working on this project, but obviously wasn't. Now, these things are made for containers that hold 500 to 1,000-gallon containers. So he puts his container under this gigantic mixer and realizes that the container can't be strapped down with heavy-duty chains. Side note, you need to strap down the containers. These things spin at 3,000 to 5,000 RPM. I've seen 1,000-gallon containers spin that weigh 4,000 pounds. That's some scary SH. So what does A-Hat do? He grabs a roll of duct tape and tapes that SH on, of course. Once he plasters that B with duct tape, he cranks that MF up to full blast and walks away. Also a big no-no. For those of you that don't know, all machines in any industrial shop have to be manned at all times, no exceptions. About 2 minutes into this act of stupidity, in walks the safety inspector. One of the production guys sees this gigantic fine running and promptly runs over and shuts the machine down, right as the safety inspector sees it. Over walks the inspector to inquire into what the heck's going on, right as A-Hat walks out of the lab freaking out, asking who shut off his mixer, and of course cussing and swearing. He then proceeds to turn the mixer back on, cuss out the production worker, and asks the safety inspector, "What the F are you looking at?" and walks away. So once I got done laughing my A off, I calmly informed my VP and all the other bigwigs that I'm not surprised. I informed them of their lost microwave, the fires, the destroyed mill. They knew about the mill, they just didn't know how it happened. I told them about the confrontation that occurred in his office, and I told them the truth about some other things that they didn't know about. Bottle of scotch in his desk, drunk on the job, etc., etc. The fire in my VP friend's eyes was burning hot enough to destroy worlds at this point, and he turns around and tells everyone that there'll be a meeting regarding today's events in the morning and orders everyone, 40+ people, to go home. We show up the next day and A-Hat was nowhere to be found. The point of the meeting was to inform everyone that A-Hat was not allowed within 500 feet of the building, and that if we saw him near the building, we needed to call the police. What I found out later was that the police already had him. When my VP friend went to fire him, A-Hat got physical, and the security guards with my VP friend got physical back. He was charged with a whole slew of SH, too much to remember. Later that day, I was promoted to lab manager and given a raise. We celebrated with a glass of scotch that we found in A-Hat's desk. The second story is, incompetent manager fires the wrong guy. After I came back from Kosovo with the US Army, I got lucky once and landed a really great job. I was contracted to work as a liaison in several parts of the world. Our team would basically go somewhere, figure out what needed done, then make it happen. The first team I worked with was amazing. We were able to get so much accomplished and genuinely enjoyed working together. We also had to figure out how to do everything. Our instructions were, go to insert place, find out what needs done, get it done. Somehow we figured it out. Sometimes it was happy accidents. We made a $1 million deal because we accidentally ran into the guy we needed to contact for funding in a random bar. We had been trying to find him for days, found him in a bar at lunch. Sometime we worked long days, as much as 20 hours. Sometimes on weekends. Sometimes we had very little to do. In our off time, we explored the areas, went to bars and restaurants. It was honestly one of the best jobs ever. Anyway, eventually our contracts ran out and I was the only one who signed on for another year. My teammates had families, and I was single at the time. When I met the new team, I knew almost instantly that this was going to suck. A team consisted of 4 people, a manager and 3 liaisons. The 2 other liaisons were among the 2 unhappiest people I've ever met, and I could never figure out why. Those guys griped and complained about everything. We all got great pay. Often it was tax exempt. We were generally safe. We usually had fairly comfortable lodging where we went, but they were never happy. You could shower those guys in the most beautiful escorts in the world, and they would call you cheap because you got them used hookers. One of the places we went, we were easily living in the nicest hotel in the city, with probably the best suites they offered, but the shower doesn't get hot enough, and I have to filter water to drink it. We were on the only floor in the building where the suites had their own showers or running water. Even worse than those 2 guys was our manager. Whoever taught this guy about leadership should be flogged. He supposedly learned from being an officer in the US Army and also from his business degree at UCLA. But somewhere along the lines, he missed all the lessons about teamwork, management, and literally anything related to managing a team. When we met, I told him that I'd be happy to help him start building a relationship with all our contacts and make his transition for the new team as seamless as possible. His response, "I'm in charge of this team. We're going to change some things to start doing it right." Okay. He also decided to lay down the law, again reasserting that he was the boss. Also, the new rules were no consumption or possession of alcohol, no leaving the lodging or workplace in off-duty hours. We worked from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. local time Monday through Friday. Basically, on our off-duty hours, we stayed in our rooms or within whatever facility we were lodged in. You're not here to be on vacation. You're here to get your jobs done. We were back in Southeastern Europe at the time, and I had a lady friend in town. No way in heck am I staying in my room and twiddling my thumbs. I told him right away that there was no chance that I was going to comply with his commandments, that company policy was clear that as long as there was no imminent safety risk, that we were free to do as we wished in our free time. To claim as safety required that he prove that his measures were necessary. I said, "This is not the military. You do not own all my time." So yeah, off to a real great start. It was less than 2 weeks before it came to a head. We had gotten nothing done. Nothing. The manager refused to use the contacts I had acquired over the last year, instead preferring to go through official channels. So I started just doing stuff myself. I made the calls, I got the funding, hired contractors, etc., and went and saw my lady friend after hours. He had this really funny thing he did where he would yell at me for going behind his back, but then put his name on my tickets and passed the work off as his own. I got sick of this, along with the crybaby brothers not doing anything. A shouting match ensued. I pointed out his glaring incompetence. He was mad that I didn't follow orders like a soldier. In the end, he got me fired. I tried to fight it, but apparently he was buddies with someone high up in the company. I had the last laugh, though. Just before I turned in my laptop and cell phone, I went through and deleted everything. Some of the files that I couldn't get in trouble for keeping, I saved in my own computer, but the rest were gone. This was all my contacts, all my notes, how to get money, where to get contractors, private numbers for hundreds of people. In the hands of even a moderately competent person, this was a goldmine of information, all gone. I spent a while just kind of floating around before eventually going home. Apparently, as soon as I was gone, the old manager opened up my laptop and went to go through all my files and was enraged that it was all gone. The whole team was eventually disbanded, when after another 2 months they were still floundering, unable to accomplish anything. Thank you for listening. Have a good one.